briefly how to learn ranges. And we're also going to be letting you ask me anything. The World Series of Poker starts for me on July 5th. That is when I arrive. I play day 1D of the main event on July 6th, and I'm hopping into a bunch of other tournaments. I see a lot of you trickling in. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you're having a fantastic day. The next, A Little Poker, with me, will be on July 3rd, then July 24th. So, taking a little bit of break for the World Series of Poker. Whenever I'm away from home, I typically do not do this show. But here I am today. Might as well let you ask some questions. Feel free to type them in the chat. You know ranges pretty well. If anything, you're a little tight. Well, look, you have to ask, what are you doing wrong? And why are you doing it? Call it wrong. There are plenty of times where you should be a little bit too tight, right? Like, say you're playing in a tournament and there's value in not going broke. It's a great time to play tight. Say you're playing in a game that's too big for you and you're taking a shot. Not that you should necessarily play tight in that spot, but maybe you should play slightly tighter just to make sure you're not taking spots that are basically break even for a lot of money. However, I would generally recommend you find spots that you can profitably play looser than, let's say, GTO ranges. Because if you can play looser than GTO ranges, it presumes you're making more money with those hands. And you typically want to play as many hands in as profitable of a manner as you can. And there will be some break-even point. And then you have to ask, is it fine to add more hands to your break-even point that potentially let you get more value out of your best hands, right? Will I be streaming any online events in Vegas? I don't think so. The only reason is because there's a tournament basically every day. I already have my schedule lined up, and there's literally a World Series event or something at the Wynn that is, in my mind, worth playing every day. I probably will play the online tournaments on my iPad or phone if I can figure out how to make it work. I presume I'll be able to make it work. But I don't think I'm going to be streaming. Maybe there's some world where it does happen, but probably not. So anyway, how do you learn ranges? Look, the right answer is sit down and study. I hate to break it to you, sit down and study. We at pokercoaching.com have done our best to give you some tools to help you study. We actually have this new program called Clear the Charts, where it will basically make you go through every single spot pre-flop to confirm that you know how to play that spot. So it'll put you in a scenario where, let's say you're in the cutoff and the hijack raises and you're playing 80 big blinds deep. It'll go through and ask you literally how to play every single hand in your range. And most people cannot clear the chart. They do a good job with the 3-2 offsuit and the pocket aces. They don't do such a good job with the 9-7 suiteds and the king-6 suiteds and the spots that are perhaps close, right? So, what I definitely recommend you do is that you write down or record hands one way or another, either if you're online using a program like Hold'em Manager, or if you are playing live, actually write down your hands and then study them after the tournament is over. We have pre-flop charts on pokercoaching.com for cash games, tournaments, heads up with a small ante, heads up with a big ante, 5-handed and 3-handed, both with a small ante and a big ante. You can go through and look at what is the right play in these scenarios, at least in GTO world, and then you can use some logic to adjust to whatever your current spot is. So let's just take a look at a spot. Say we are 80 big blinds deep in the cutoff versus a raise from the hijack. This will tell you what you should do in GTO world. Again, maybe you don't necessarily want to play GTO, maybe you do. And as you see here, I said everybody knows what to do with the aces. They 3-bet it. Everybody knows what to do with the 3-2 offsuit. They fold it. But what about king-6 suited? It's a mix. What about 9-7 suited? It's a fold, but it's close, right? And a lot of people mess up these hands on the cusp. Now, when we're looking at spots that are very deep stacked, you will find that mixed strategies are used across the boards, whereas whenever you're like 30 big blinds deep, you're going to find that the right strategies are more clear. Like, notice the spots on the cusp are still using mixed strategies, but there are a lot more cells that are entirely in green here, right? Or entirely in red, which means those hands should be either called or re-raised every time. But look, you need to learn how to play these spots, and the right way to do it, in my mind, is to go through and reference these charts a lot. Look at them, study them a lot, use games like the Clear the Charts to essentially make flashcards out of the ranges, and that's going to go a long way to helping you pre-flop. Now, post-flop is a whole other deal. Post-flop, I definitely do not think you want to go try to memorize GTO ranges for all sorts of generic scenarios, because you're going to end up with all sorts of random seemingly random spots. Instead, I recommend you go through and learn heuristics, like rules that generally apply. They're not always going to apply, but they generally apply. And we discussed this thoroughly in my tournament and cash game masterclass for flop play, turn play, and river play to teach you how to play your premium made hands, your draws, your strong made or your marginal made hands, and your junk. Those 4 types of ranges, portions of your ranges, is usually where every hand is going to fit. Now, if you do go through and study what we discussed, you'll find that sometimes you're betting very frequently when you have a big range and nut advantage, or infrequently when you don't have the range and nut advantage. And you're going to find that specific types of hands, usually your best hands and your draws, typically want to put money in the pot, and everything else does not really want to put much money in the pot. And I'm not going to go through all this today because it's a gigantic course. It'll take me far more than the next 53 minutes I have here. And that's that. That's how you go about learning ranges. You study a lot. Pre-flop, I would recommend you get pretty close to memorizing ranges. If you want simplified ranges, we actually have that somewhere on our site. If we go to the tools section, let's see. Downloadable pre-flop charts. We actually have implementable ranges, which are a bit easier. Let's see. 75 big blind implementable GTO charts for tournaments. Essentially, instead of using mixed strategies, we have taken a lot of these spots and essentially put cells to 100% with some hands to 3-bet and 100% to some hands with call. Like, take a look at, let's see. Here we have cutoff versus a low jack or hijack raise first in. Take a look at this chart right here. You see, I actually just showed you a chart very similar, right? Where I showed that these hands that are red were sometimes calling, sometimes 3-betting. Same thing with these, sometimes calling, sometimes 3-betting. We just saw ace, queen, ace, jack, ace, 10, sometimes calling, sometimes 3-betting. But we've loaded all of those into specific cells so that you can memorize a much simpler chart you can implement 100% of the time. And your strategy is not the perfect GTO strategy, but it's pretty close. And if you're like relatively new to poker and you don't want to go about actually mixing your frequencies, I don't think this is that bad of a method at all. I think it's perfectly fine and perfectly reasonable, especially if you realize that you should be mixing it up with all the hands in the regions that are on the cusp, right? That said, reference the pre-flop charts a lot. You'll get good at that. And then learn a lot of good, strong heuristics for post-flop play, and you'll be pretty good at that. All right, let's see what questions you have. Hayden says you've been listening to the show for a while. Great, glad to hear it. Will I be streaming? Probably not. Any preparations you take before day 2 of a World Series event? I don't treat it much differently than day 1, really. I'll typically look up who I'm playing against on day 2. Not that that really matters that much. I mean, it's good to know if someone has like literally no results or almost no results. Or like saying you're playing a $10,000 buy-in main event on day 2 and you look up your opponent and they have 3 cashes and a $100 buy-in tournament in a random city. They're probably going to be the type of player who's going to be a little bit cautious, a little bit tight. Maybe someone you can push around. That's going to be especially true if they have like a starting stack going into day 2. So that's definitely something that's worth noting. Typically, as your opponents get better and better, it's just not that relevant because you play against most good players in somewhat of the same way. And the way you really make a ton of money from poker is by exploiting what your opponents do wrong, right? So you have to ask, what can you learn wrong by looking at your opponent's results? And the answer is sometimes a little bit, but often not a lot. Obviously, don't go out partying before day 2. Funny enough, I actually have an all-day party lined up before day 2 of the World Series main event. Probably not GTO. But you gotta have fun. You gotta live a little. Yeah, don't go out partying all night the day before. Get good sleep. Try to sleep kind of late so that you wake up and are ready to play all day on day 2, etc., etc. You know, the logical stuff. A lot of the stuff is just common sense to some extent, right? Don't butcher yourself between day 1 and day 2. And that's it. I mean, maybe review pre-flop ranges for whatever the starting stack is for your scenario, or the stack you're likely to be against at your table. Like, say you are going into a table and everybody has 30 big blinds and you have 80. Look at 30 big blind ranges for a while on the way in. And I do this anytime I'm going into a cash game or a tournament even, where like I just want a very, very quick refresher, like just to make sure I know the hands that are on the cusp of playability, right? Like, I mean, this chart I just showed you here, it's nice to know King 8 suited is a 3-bet and not King 4 suited, right? Just want to remind yourself, just want to make sure. I like to do a lot of double checking, which is maybe unnecessary, but I think it's probably useful enough. How can you become a dealer? I have no idea. I am not a dealer. That said, I can deal the cards quite well, just from looking and a little bit of experience. I know there are dealer schools out there. I don't actually know if those are good because I've never been to one. I would definitely recommend you find good dealers in your casino and ask them this question: how do you become a dealer? Because they're going to have the best answer, probably. Ideally, find the best dealer in the best casino in your area, and then ask like 10 of those people, and that'll probably give you a good answer. People don't 3-bet enough, so raise wider and overfold to 3-bets. Correct. You play too tight when your buy-ins aren't guaranteed behind you. So when you're playing far too big, you play too tight. Yeah, when people play with scared money, they play too tightly and it does not work out. You think that if you play tight against a player that plays GTO without adapting, you're going to beat them. No, that's not what it means to... You're not going to beat a player who plays perfect GTO, because if you play tight and they're playing GTO, they are going to win all the tiny pots. And yeah, you'll probably crush them in the big pots, because you're just going to show up with the nuts. But they're going to crush you in all of the little pots. They're going to steal your blind, steal the small pots, and they're going to run you over. What method do you use to transfer money to the World Series? I will just wire money into both places. At the World Series, I know they have this kiosk thing that you can use for buy-in. So basically, I'll wire money into the World Series. Then you go to the cage the first day you get there. Tell them you want them to put all the money on this, I don't know what it's called, Fast Track or something. They put that on that. And then to buy in, you just buy in on your phone. You have to make an account with Bravo or whoever's running it. Then you got to go to the kiosk and print out your receipts. It's a bit of a to-do, but it's way better than waiting in the line every single time you want to buy in. Is Poker Snowy a good tool? Sure. I think it's definitely worth using, especially if you are not so good on ranges and don't really understand pre-flop strategies. Back when I used to use it a lot, it was only for cash games. I know they've expanded since then, but I thought it was a little bit tight in cash games. But, you know, to be fair, tight's not... Tight is right in cash games with a rake. Have you ever had a downswing? Yes. How did you handle it? I was pretty good with it because I did not care about the money all that much. It's important to realize that sometimes you're going to go on downswings. My biggest dollar downswing was something like 500K in tournaments. It's not really that many buy-ins, like 100 or something. Obviously, you're going to go on 100 buy-in downswing at some point. Get used to it. Online, I've been pretty lucky to have a nice, consistent run of scores. In live cash games, I never really had a bad downswing. I mean, my worst downswing was like $40,000 when I was playing 5-10 no limit in terms of buy-ins, and that's not really that many buy-ins, so that was pretty good. Yeah, and live tournaments have had a few bad downswings, and you just keep playing. You just realize that's normal. And like I'm saying, like even then, 100 buy-ins is not a lot. I've had two World Series, two World Series of poker. It chokes me up even saying it, where I had 0 cashes. But to be fair, cashes are not the metric you care about. You care about wins or at least very deep runs. I was very lucky at the end of both of those to win $1 million, so that made it nicer in WPTs. I mean, how do you deal with it? You don't worry about it. It's just standard stuff. Did you take a break? No, not really. While on a break, did you study or just take a break completely? You have to realize, like, why are you taking a break? Because you think you're playing poorly? If you're playing poorly, it means you're not studied or you're on tilt or something. Don't play poorly. Don't play poorly. Simple as that. I mean, I know that is easier said than done, but if you know a strategy very well, you're simply showing up and implementing the strategy that you know. Perhaps you don't know the strategy very well. Perhaps you're just kind of guessing. I do think this hits players who are, call them feel players, far harder than it hits, call it range-based players. Because range-based players just show up and they play the ranges as they know how to play the ranges, and sometimes they win and sometimes they lose, and they don't really care because they know it makes money. If you're a feel-based player, you don't really know if what you're doing makes money. You're guessing, and when you're guessing a lot, sometimes you guess wrong a lot. But if you know something, it's way easier to just do the thing that you know. And as you know more and more about poker, you'll be able to get the right answer far more often than not. But no, when you take a break, do you study? No, I study all the time. I study poker literally every time I'm in front of my computer. Now that I have wife and kids, it's only 5 days a week instead of 7. So I'm a slacker now. You're on a flight to Vegas. How do you deal with an aggressive player, I guess, who steals your blinds every orbit? You bet. She pushes. You check. She leads. Play good hands. Stop folding. Play good hands. Stop folding. Simple as that. How many tournaments do you need to play to make a final table? If you play 1 to 2 tournaments daily and make a final table once a week, is that more than enough? This is a math problem, and you should hopefully be able to figure this out. If a tournament has 100 players, you should final table it 1 in 10 times if you're break even, right? So obviously you're going to need something like more than that to make money. Now, I will say that final tables, again, are not necessarily the right metric because a final table in a 10,000 person tournament is quite good. A final table in a 30-person tournament is not so good, right? Same thing with caching. Caching is not a great metric. If you're caching a lot, it may imply you're not playing in a manner that leads to wins. Wins are where it's at. Caching a lot is not how you make money. If you look at all the biggest winners in online poker, where we have a lot of good results on what is actually good and profitable, you'll see the biggest winners all have lots and lots and lots of first and second and third places, and not a whole lot of cashes. If people cash 15% of the time, they may cash only 12. That said, there are certainly players who do cash 18% and still make very good money. How much do you adjust a tournament range to a cash game range with rake? Fortunately for you, you don't have to guess. We will show you. Let's go back over here to tools. We will click on GTO tournament charts. Doesn't really matter. Takes you to the same place. It's all the same program here. And we have tournament charts and cash game charts. So let's take a look at 80 big blinds on the button. Here's what we're supposed to raise with in a tournament. 80 big blinds deep on the button. We're supposed to raise 55% of hands. Okay? In a cash game, let's go to cash game 100 big blinds deep. Roughly the same scenario. On the button, you're going to raise way less. 41% of hands. Why are we raising way less in a tournament? I'm sorry, way less in a cash game compared to a tournament. Why are we raising with I guess it's fewer hands. English is hard. Why do we raise with way fewer hands in cash games compared to tournaments? The answer is rake. Let's look at a really, really big spot. Big blind versus raise. I want big blind versus raise from the button. In a cash game, 100 big blinds deep. We get to fold 59%, okay? We're folding 59% in a cash game. What about in a tournament? In a tournament, in the big blind versus a raise from the button, we're going to be folding almost nothing. We fold 16%. So how do you adjust? The answer is study the charts and realize the games are very different. You don't adjust. You realize the games are different. When the structure of the game is very different, you play a different strategy. A lot of people think that no-limit tournaments are just like one thing. But you got to realize you're actually playing a lot of different structures based on the specific game. You've heard Pads, a guy named Patrick Leonard, say something like you should first learn shallow stack because that's where most of the money is made in tournaments. What is my thought on this? Look, I think you should learn how to play all levels of a tournament, but you definitely should learn spots where you are most likely going to play. And if you look at the content at pokercoaching.com in the tournament masterclass, we mostly study 40-ish big blind play and 20-ish big blind play. So do I agree with that? I completely agree with that. Because that's where you mostly play, right? Now, we also discuss deep stack play, because obviously if you show up on time to play a tournament, you will be playing deep stacked for some portion of the time, and you don't want to torch your money there. But look, I think if you're a very new tournament player and you don't mind having big swings, buy in late to tournaments, buy in with 15 big blinds, learn 15 big blind poker perfectly, learn 25 big blind poker, learn 30 big blind poker perfectly, and completely neglect 100 big blind poker because you're never going to play it. It's not a bad strategy if you don't want to spend a ton of time studying. I'm going to say it's a lame form of poker. That's not really the right word. It's kind of lame to just show up and buy in late and just jam your stack in a lot. But, you never screw it up and your opponents do, you'll probably make some money. Where is Clear the Charts? Clear the Charts is in our app, I know for sure. Download the Poker Coaching app. It's somewhere on the website. I actually do not know right this second. Sorry. I think it's just like right on our main page. I don't want to be clicking around on the website. We might get to some not suitable for work website. Who in the world knows? They're going to ban me on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and wherever else we are. Why does the solver 3-bet offsuit combos and sometimes suited? Well, let's find a spot. Button versus raise from cutoff. Why are we calling ace-10 suited, but 3-betting, calling ace-10 suited, but 3-betting ace-10 offsuit? Because ace-10 suited flops way better. And we really do not want to 3-bet ace-10 suited and then get 4-bet. We actually have charts for this. Versus a 4-bet. Notice, ace-10 offsuit has to fold. It's not good enough. Ace-10 suited would have to call. Notice here, like king-9 suited has to call. You don't really like it, but it has to call. Queen-jack suited would have to call, but you don't really like it. You'd much rather just not get re-raised in these spots. So you'll find that these offsuit blocker hands very often like to 3-bet. The weakest hands in your offsuit calling range, in this region usually, with an ace, a king, a queen, or jack, really like to 3-bet because they don't especially want to... Well, if they 3-bet, they can just fold if they get 4-bet, no problem. Whereas you'll find these medium-ish strength suited hands often lean towards calling because they don't want to get 4-bets. Do you ever limp? Not really. Only from the small blind, as recommended by GTO. You're playing online poker. Do you think it's more profitable at cash or tournaments? Well, cash is going to have way less variance. So there's a lot of merit in that. I do think tournaments are far softer than cash. Right from out of the table, cutoff opens to 2.3. You call the button with king, queen. I don't know how many chips you have. You mix using suits. I don't do a whole lot of mixing using suits. I don't do a whole lot of mixing in general in live poker because I think it's completely unnecessary against the vast majority of the player pool. Just make the play that makes the most money. Very often against most players, you are not trying to be balanced. If you are asking me this question, I presume you're not playing $25,000 buy-in tournaments against the best players in the world. So do the play that you think makes the most sense in game. And you probably don't want to be playing GTO in general against most players. Against most players in live cash games pre-flop, for example, you give me this ace-7 suited here, 3-bets about 25% of the time, right? I can tell you, against 98% of players, I'm going to either call it 100% or 3-bet it 100%, depending on how they think they're going to react, depending on who is yet to act. I'm very rarely going to be 3-betting it exactly 25% in any random scenario. You consider yourself a crusher at small stakes cash games. All right. I would have your first big tournament next Saturday. What should be your approach? Well, study tournaments and play tournament strategy. I mean, I don't know. We literally just went through this. The games are different. You must learn different strategies for different games. Also, I would ask, if you're a cash game crusher, why even spend your time playing tournaments? Just crush cash games and make all the money. What is the range connectivity concept? Range connectivity. I think essentially you're referring to, like, you want to have hands in your 3-betting range that connect well on all boards. What a lot of people do wrong is they 3-bet only like 9s and better and ace-10 and better and king-queen. But then on low card boards, they have no 3-bets. So whenever they 3-bet and somebody calls and the flop comes 8-7-6, they have literally no hands that connect well with that board except for overpairs. And even then, overpairs on 8-7-6 are not that good. Whereas if you 3-bet a lot of stuff like this in this region, you're going to connect well with all boards some portion of the time. Like say it comes king 4-4. You don't have a ton of 4s, right? But you do have a little, and that's way more than 0. How do you study solvers? Go to pokercoaching.com and go through the tournament masterclass or cash game masterclass. You're saying in soft cash games, should you play suited gappers, like 9-7 suited? Probably in late position. How big are my kids now? 6 and 4. They're pretty big. What day should a non-pro play the main event? The last one. Always the last one is the right answer. How do you feel about wearing sunglasses and hoodie and headphones and all that? I think it's terrible for the game. Anything you do to make the game less fun is usually not ideal. I did wear sunglasses and hoodie and headphones for a long time because I was young and stupid. I did a lot of young, stupid things whenever I was a kid because I did not know better and I was not very forward-thinking. Doing anything that makes the game more serious is almost always bad for the good players. You've been watching my videos. Good, glad to hear it. How many years have I been playing? Only 20. Being under the gun on list one in tournaments, how do you avoid callers? Do you raise bigger? Why don't you want callers? You want to raise and have your opponents call with all sorts of trash. Are satellites worth it? Worth what? Satellites to the main event are worth $10,000 if you win. You can't stand the grind life anymore. Should you quit? Probably. If you don't want to sit there and put in a lot of hours, poker is not for you. The way you win at poker, find a game you can beat, play it a lot, keep a proper bankroll. That's it. You don't want to do the play it a lot step. If you don't do the play it a lot step, then it's probably not for you. Robbie, glad to hear you're having a good time. I'll do my best at the World Series. What's the most imperative differences between theory and tournaments and cash games? What's the most imperative differences in theory? I'm not a scientist over here. I'm just a poker player, okay? Can't be using big words over here. It's very important whenever you are writing a poker book to write on about a 4th grade reading level. That way people can understand you. Well, you're playing with different stack depths. Different stack depths demand different strategies because you need stronger hands to put in lots of money by the river. That's the main difference. Also, you can't rebuy in tournaments. I do not know about GTO Plus, Nate. I'm sorry. Send an email to support@pokercoaching.com or to their support, and maybe somebody can help. Got your biggest cash yesterday, $15K. Good job. Good work, ER. Nice job, nice job. Are birds real? I think birds are probably real. There's a Tim Ferriss book called The 4-Hour Chef. Do I have it back here? Oh, here it is right here. There's a great book called The 4-Hour Chef by Tim Ferriss. It teaches you how to catch pigeons and eat them. So if you doubt that birds are real, you can try to catch a pigeon and eat it. And I think that at least makes it more real for you. But I don't know if birds are real. Probably are, but I don't know. 800 tournaments online, $10 average buy-in, break even. Is this enough volume to determine you're not a winning player? Absolutely not. 800 tournaments is close to nothing. That's especially going to be the case if you're playing tournaments with a lot of players. If you had a bottle of bottomless liquid, real or not real liquid, what liquid would you pick? A bottomless water, obviously. Come on. Come on, everybody. Come on, everybody. Come on, everybody. What in the world is this? Come on, everybody. 3-bet ace-9 for the small blind versus the button. Flop comes queen, 8, 2. You check, they bet small. I guess you call. Ace-queen on this board is probably just a fold. Turns a king, check, check. River's a 10. He has king 10. I can't even read this. I don't know what this is happening. Should you play multiple tables or only one? I would always recommend playing multiple tables, ideally at least 2, because playing 1, you're just sitting there doing nothing a lot of the time. If you're sitting there doing nothing a lot of the time, then you're just wasting your time. Don't waste your time. Clear the chart says fold suited gappers like these suited hands in the cutoff. You try to raise these 40 to 50% in soft cash games. Is that good? Yeah, that's good. I mean, look, when your games are soft, I'll just give you an example here. Say we're playing... You wanted the cutoff, raise first in. Cutoff, raise first in, 80 big blinds deep. Come on, computer. Well, maybe you were talking about the cash games. So let's go to cash games, 100 big blinds deep, in the cutoff, raise first in. And yeah, so you're saying these hands in this region. Should you raise these hands sometimes in soft cash games? And yeah, look, if your opponents are going to do a lot of calling and then check folding on the flop, then you should definitely raise slightly wider. If your opponents are going to be doing a lot of 3-betting, you do not want to raise wider. If they're going to do a lot of calling and then like battling post-flop, you probably don't want to raise much wider. But if they're just going to call a lot and then check fold a lot, or they're going to like call a lot and then just blast off post-flop a lot, then yeah, you do want to play wider, and some of these hands are very good hands to raise. Any hands on the cusp of playability are usually fine to raise under the right circumstances. If a game has no rake or ante, are you supposed to play the tournament ranges? No rake or an ante. Yeah, you're going to be closer to the tournament ranges than the cash game ranges, that's for sure. Somewhere in the middle, though. What's my preferred online poker site? I don't know. I haven't played online poker in a while. It's been quite nice, actually. Remember those days of sitting here grinding some of those unlicensed, unregulated sites until 6 a.m.? That's rough. It's rough to play till 6 a.m. when you got to wake up at 6 a.m. to deal with your kids. Been beating... You've been told 5-10 and 10-25 are dead in most areas. Is that true? I mean, look, 5-10 and 10-25 is a pretty big game for most places. In most localities, they don't even have 5-10. You're going to have to move to somewhere like Florida or Los Angeles or Vegas. And to play the bigger games like 25-50, I mean, you're looking at like literally Vegas only or maybe LA only or private games. And sometimes that demands a whole lot of cultivation on your end. How do you choose the action for ICM charts? ICM charts. I don't know. Let's take a look. ICM. Let's do ICM 1 big blind ante. Let's go 5 ways. Let's click on this one. How do you do this? I will show you. Okay. Let's see. It's not quite fitting on our screen. How do I make it fit on your screen? Well, whatever. You're going to have to trust me on this. Okay. Right here. We have our options. We are under the gun. Always start here. You can actually skip to other spots, but let's start here. Under the gun. What did under the gun do? Here are the stacks. 20 big blinds in the hijack, 30 in the cutoff, 60 on the button, 15 in the small blind, 44 in the big blind. Let's say under the gun folds. Let's say we're actually 60 big blinds here. I want to know what the 60 big blind person does when folded to. So we say under the gun folds. Now we're going to say cutoff folds. I'm clicking this button here, literally clicking it. Now let's say we're on the button. Here's what we should raise. 63% of hands. Notice this is way wider than the chart we just showed that said you should raise 55%. Why are we raising wider? Because we get to apply pressure to everyone, especially the big blind with 44 big blinds. So say we raise. Now let's say the small blind folds. And now let's say the big blind 3-bets. Look at their non-existent 3-bet range. 6% of hands. That's like nothing. Say they do 3-bet. Now, what should the button do? Here is what the button should do. Notice they don't 4-bet ever because the 3-betting range should be non-existent. And that's it. That's how you would go through. You just literally click the buttons up here, and it will take you through all the spots. If you want to go backwards, you can just like click right up here, go back to under the gun folds. It'll put us in the cutoff spot now. And let's say cutoff raises. And now on the button, here's what you should do on the button. Notice you get to 3-bet a lot on the button, especially with ace X and king X suited. I guess king X offsuit too. You really want to have blockers when you 3-bet at a final table. Let's say we do 3-bet, let's just say. Now let's say everybody else folds. Back to the cutoff. Here's what the cutoff should do. Cutoff should go all in with this range. Hands in red. Call almost nothing. Isn't that neat? They should be calling the 3-bet off 30 big blinds with almost nothing at a final table. Why? Because of this 15 big blind stack here and the 20 big blind stack here. Anyway, say they do rip it in. Now it's going to... Click the wrong button. Oh, I hope I didn't click the wrong button. Is there a glitch? Did I find a glitch in the matrix? Min raise, 3-bet, all in. Here we go. Guess I clicked the wrong button. Here's what you call off with here. Tens and better and ace queen, everything else folds. That's how you do it. Hopefully that answers the question. Literally click the buttons. Okay. What attitude is more important? Good instinctual player or good chart following? If you think that good poker is following charts, you don't understand what good poker looks like, in my opinion. I think instincts are valuable, but not that valuable. I think what's important is studying. Studying and learning patterns and rules. I think learning patterns and rules is vitally important. If you think you're supposed to sit here and memorize all the charts, no, that's not what good poker is. I play pocket nines. It depends. How long does it take to become a poker pro? Depends on how hard you want to work and how dedicated you want to be to the game and how good of instructional content you have. It can take you your entire life, or it can take you, I don't know. How fast can I really take someone and make them a poker player? There's been, Matt Berkey's been talking on Twitter a lot about how he thinks the poker dream is dead for a lot of people, essentially. Because they're not smart enough or they're not talented enough. And I completely disagree. I'm trying to think, how long would I make a bet for? Like if I had to make a bet. Now, I'm not making this bet. I'm not proposing it. I don't have time to do it. How long would it take me to train someone who does not know how to play poker? I don't even get to pick them. Let's say I'm picking a literal random person off the street. How long would it take me to take a literal random person off the street and have them beating 1-2 no limit for $10 per hour? Is that a pro? Do you call that a pro if they're making $10 an hour? I don't know. That's a start, right? If they can make $10 an hour at 1-2, they can probably learn to beat it for more. And look, I mean, I might say like 40 hours. Like not a lot. Really not a lot. Because, I mean, if I can put them in the right game, if I get to select their game, as in like any game at any casino, I get to tell them which casino to go to. I don't get to select beyond that. And I get to tell them which hours to play. You know, they're going to play good hours. I think it's kind of hard not to win if you literally just sit there and play good cards and, you know, learn how to exploit the common tendencies your opponents have. So that's how to win a small amount of money. How about to win $50 an hour? That's like where you're a decent winner at 2.5. I mean, that's going to be a lot harder. I mean, I don't know. 500 hours, 1,000 hours. I don't know. Maybe probably less, actually. I mean, I'm going to go high on that one just to not have all the hate come out. When's my next book coming out? I don't know. We're currently working on the charts. The charts are providing a big pain in the butt as normal. They should have a term at the World Series with no sunglasses, phones, hoodies, scarves, etc., etc. Yeah, I think they should probably all be like that. How do you understand betting to deny equity? Well, so look, there are a lot of spots where you want to bet because your hand is almost always good but vulnerable. And you're going to find that a lot of hands that are almost always good but vulnerable like to bet. Say, for example, you raise the button and the big blind calls, and the flop comes 8-7-6. That's the spot where maybe when they check, you should be checking back with hands like aces. Because aces are almost always good, but they're actually not all that vulnerable. Whereas a hand like pocket nines on 8-7-6 should be betting almost every time. Because it is almost always good, but it's very vulnerable. Same thing with ace-8. Ace-8 on 8-7-6 should be betting almost every time. So essentially, the idea is that ace-8 and pocket aces on 8-7-6 both have kind of the same strength, right? They all lose as 2-pair. Your opponents probably don't have 9s or better, because they would have 3-bet. And therefore, the hands are of kind of similar strength. I know they're not exactly similar strength, but they're kind of similar strength. And because of that, you want to be putting a lot of money in with the ones that's most likely to get outdrawn. And ace-8's way more likely to get outdrawn than pocket aces on 8-7-6. If you see any glitches in the poker coaching app, please send us an email. What's my schedule look like? A tournament every day. Your biggest mistake is not keeping a proper bankroll. Yeah, well, you got to do it. On a bit of a downswing, you can't get out of it. You can't win any flips. Well, that's how it goes. Click the like and subscribe button if you're enjoying it today. How many buy-ins should you have? Go to pokercoaching.com/bankroll. What's more important, good instincts or good discipline? Good discipline by a mile. Good discipline by a mile. I'm literally telling you the formula to beat poker that no one wants to follow, apparently. This is the impossible thing that I guess people like Berkey and other people think that is impossible for people. Find a game you can beat. Find a game you can beat. Okay? Do that. Play it a lot. Sit your butt down and grind a lot. Keep a proper bankroll. And that's it. That's it. Now, a lot of people say, but there's a lot of variance in tournaments. Well, maybe don't play tournaments. Did you ever think about that one? If you don't like variance, if you don't actually want to put in a lot of volume, maybe don't play that game. Just because a game exists does not mean that you have to play it. I think a lot of people don't get that. They think that all their friends play X game, therefore they have to play X game. Pot Limit Omaha is a good example. A lot of people want to play the great game of PLO because I don't know why you'd want to play it, honestly. But they don't realize that you need a gigantic bankroll to play PLO because the swings are ridiculous, because when you get it in, you usually don't have a ton of equity. You got 55% or 58% if your opponents have half a brain. Whereas in No Limit Hold'em, you may have a whole lot more equity on average, even if your opponents are kind of good. So you're going to complain about variance, play a different game. If you complain about variance, in my opinion, this is a lack of discipline on your end, because you realize you have a problem with something and you're not fixing it. That is just pure discipline in my mind. If you don't like something, find a way to solve the problem. If you don't like swings, play a game with fewer swings. And there are plenty of forms of poker that have fewer swings or less intense swings. If games are soft, should you play yet less GTO? Of course, but you should always exploit to take advantage of what your opponents do wrong. Any advice for a tag team tournament? Put the best player in. Have a lot of fun. Have one player on the rail being the cheerleader and one player on the court playing. Doesn't work when you both go out partying. Doesn't work when you both take it seriously, because one of you is going to go broke and the other one's going to be mad. You try to not get all in pre-flop. I mean, it depends on the spot. 40-man blind stack. Ante in play. Aggressive chip leader opens. 2.5x, 2.5. Under the gun +2. Type player calls. You 3-bet the button with ace-5 offsuit. Don't do that. Don't do that. You need to be 3-betting far more linearly in multi-way pots in general. That said, if you think they're both going to fold a ton, then maybe ace-5 is okay. First hand of the tournament, everyone at the table goes all in. Action on you in the big blind. You have aces. What would you do? I would call. Why would you fold if you have a giant equity advantage? I'm going to show you a little something. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind right here. And I'm going to make you much better at poker. So you have aces. And then we're going to give your opponents actually pretty good hands. Let's give them all top 10%. Top 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. They don't actually have this. But this is presuming they all have 10%. We are putting in our money 6 ways. What is 1/6 of the pot? We need to have more than 17% equity here to profit. Okay? You think we have more than 17% with pocket aces, everyone? I bet we do. Only 47%. Okay, let's get out the calculator. Let's say it's a $100 buy-in tournament. We put in $100 into a $600 pot. So there's $600. $600 pot. We got back 0.47, 47%, minus the 100 we put in, minus the rake, whatever that is. We make $182 by calling with the pocket aces in a $100 buy-in tournament. 182% ROI on the first hand, just by taking on a little bit of variance. If you're asking me this question, this is going to sound bad. If you're asking me this question, it means, in my mind, you're scared of losing, or you don't understand math. If you don't understand math at all, you either need to learn it, or poker is not going to be for you. Because 47 is a lot more than 18. Okay? If you don't like variance, if you're not willing to flip getting 5-to-1 pot odds, Poker may not be for you. Okay? Simple as that. You think it's always aces when your opponent's 5-bet you all in 70 big blinds deep? Well, let's see what GTO says. Let's see. We're 80 big blinds deep. We are in the cutoff versus a 3-bet from the button. What should we do with kings? Kings always 4-bets. So let's say they 5-bet all in. What should we do with kings? We should call. What should we do with nines? For 80 big blinds, we should call if the opponent's good. Now, you can actually go through here and see, is my opponent actually doing this? What's the button 3-betting versus a raise from the cutoff? Okay. Is your opponent's 3-betting this? They're probably not. They're probably not 3-betting nearly as many of these hands and junk. What would they do versus a 4-bet? Are they shoving all of these hands? Are they shoving this range plus these bluffs? If your opponent's never shoved queens, jacks, tens, and ace-king, and their range is literally kings and maybe aces because they don't understand how to play, and know none of this, then if the range is kings and queens only, obviously you call kings and kings because kings crushes kings and queens, right? If you have to fold kings preflop, you're probably screwing up. Don't fold kings preflop. There are almost no scenarios for that. You're up to $1,100. You usually sit at 1-2. When should you be playing 2-5? When you have about $15,000, maybe more, assuming you're absolutely crushing the game. How do you meal prep for the World Series? I do not. Can I recommend a good poker autobiography? I have the best one for you. It is called Life's a Gamble by Mike Sexton. Is it back here? Where is it? In my opinion, I've read a lot of poker biographies. This is the best poker biography. Life's a Gamble by Mike Sexton. I love Mike Sexton. Maybe that makes me biased. But Life's a Gamble by Mike Sexton is my favorite biography. I love this book. I helped put the book together, to be fair. Wrote me a nice letter in the book. He's no longer with us, but I think it's a good book. I think it is an excellent biography. Mike Matisow has one called Check Raising the Devil, which is also a lot of fun. You normally take 20th or 30th place. Well, understand that happens. With fields with 1,500 people, you're not going to take first all that often. There's a whole lot of more 20th and 30th places than there are first places. Any thoughts on Club GG type stuff? Look, I generally recommend against subscription services unless there's a reason for people to play for real. For real, you know, like they're actually trying on the subscription services. How many buy-ins can you downswing in a cash game? Depends on how bad you are. If you're not a winning player, the answer is you're always going to be down in the long run. When did you start coaching? I never really felt like I started coaching. It was more of I was posting on a lot of internet forums. People would ask my advice, and I would give them advice. I would ask people advice. They would give me advice. We shared advice. Me and a lot of the best poker players in the world today were talking about poker 20 years ago on various internet forums. And, we made friends, got good. Some of us started helping out other people. People realized we were all good, and people started asking us for more and more of our time. And as more and more people start asking you for more and more of your time, you eventually have to start charging for your time. So that's when you start coaching, if you feel inclined. A lot of people don't do coaching at all because they don't want to. Do what you want to do at the end of the day. But I don't know when I did my first coaching session. I have to imagine I was probably like 19 years old or something. But I was giving away advice for free, and I still give away advice for free. Hello, welcome to the show. I was doing that for a very long time. I think I was also pretty smart about it too, where anytime people would ask me a question, I would write an article about it. And my first poker book I made was actually probably halfway done before the book was even proposed to me to do, because I had written so many articles for people about various situations. How do you adjust push fold to soft players? Depends on what they do wrong. Are they folding too much or calling too much? How do you adjust your bet sizing? I'm usually not going to be doing a ton of bet sizing adjustments. One thing you may want to do is 3-bet a lot bigger if it will make the good players fold every time yet to act, and make the bad players call every time. Like imagine somebody raises to 3 big blinds in the cutoff, and you're on the button with, let's say, whatever, you're all deep stacked. Or maybe let's say you're even in the cutoff. Let's say the hijack raises, you're in the cutoff. Hijack's really bad. You're in the cutoff. Big blind, small blind, and button are all very good. This is a spot where normally you'd make it just 8 big blinds or 9 big blinds, but maybe you want to make it 15 big blinds, because that's going to make the players yet to act fold basically every time, unless they have a really good hand, because they're not just going to bluff it in there for 45 big blinds, Or, and so if they do raise, they just have the nuts most of the time. And the initial raiser, if they're really bad, they're going to call even if it's 15 big blinds, because they don't care. So now you're just getting a lot of money in against the bad player, and you're making the good players play really straightforwardly. So there's definitely spots for that. What would be a roadmap for a beginner to become a reg? Go to pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. Okay? Go to pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. It's a completely free 3-hour-long course. You probably already know all that if you're here. If you don't know all that stuff already, fine, good, whatever. Then from there, go to either the tournament or the cash game masterclass. Those are 40-hour-long courses that teach you everything you need to know to start crushing those games. That's it. The roadmap is completely 100% there for you. It's actually made by the help of a guy named Johnny Bentoncourt, who had a website called Clutch Prep that he's done very well with. It teaches people college textbooks better than college professors teach the college textbooks. And I actually had him help design those courses. And he did not know how to play poker very well when we first started. So he helped me find a lot of spots that maybe I thought were obvious that were not obvious to beginners, right? And he helped organize and structure the content very well. All the videos in the courses are like 10 hours long. 10 minutes long or shorter, with interactive quizzes after each one to really be sure you are learning the concepts, because a lot of these concepts build on top of each other. So anyway, pokercoaching.com/fundamentals will get you started. Went through cash game, filling in the cutoff. It's 3-bet pre-flop. You literally did not write out anything pertaining to this hand. I do not know what's happening at all. Your short stack for 9 big blinds. They have ace jack. Fourth act. Everyone's folded. Easy all in. What do you mean? Easy all in. With ace jack suited. I don't have exact charts for this. Let's see if I have anything close to this over here. ICM, 1 big blind ante, 5-way. I needed 10 big blind stack in middle position. Here we go. Actually, where are you? Fourth to act. Ugh. Maybe like right here. This would be a fine chart. Notice here, ace jack suited, shoves it all in every time, right? Dark red, hopefully you can tell. So this is in the hijack seat. You is the shortest stack, 10 big blinds. Maybe that's where you're in, maybe it's not. As you see, ace jack suited, easy all in. We're only min raising with the nuts plus a few blockers. Here's another one, 10 big blinds, first to act. I gotta presume it's gonna be similar enough. Just slightly different stack depths over here. You see ace jack suited, still easy all in. We have charts for this. A lot of stuff, just follow charts. We're all eventually doing PLO, GTO. I don't think we're going to be doing GTO for PLO. And I would recommend you don't do GTO for PLO unless you're playing super tough online games. We do have some online content, some PLO content coming out soon / eventually. We're in the process of nailing down a bunch of new coaches that are going to be putting out a bunch of great content on poker coaching over the next year or so. Money bubble. Table has a big stack with a lot of chips, 3 shorter stacks. The rest of us have a middle stack. Less than 20 to go. Less than 20 to go does not sound like a bubble to me. It sounds like a long way from a bubble unless you're playing a 1,000-person tournament. If you're playing a 1,000-person tournament with 20 left, play slow and tight. Not ideal, not a lot of fun, but it is what it is. Everyone asking about downswings. Understand that unless you're on like a 100 buy-in downswing, you don't know what a downswing is. It's just normal variance. It's just normal variance. Please go to a website called Poker. Actually, I'll do it right now for you. Pokerdope.com. I'm sure this is going to be far off of the screen. Oh gosh, hopefully we can make this work for all of you today. I'm going to go to Tournament Variance Calculator. Let's say we're going to play 1,000-person tournaments. 150 people get in the money. Buy-in is $100. Rake is 11. We're going to play with a 30% return on investment. You're actually pretty good. We're going to play 1,000 of these. I need a bigger bankroll. All right, calculate. Okay. Is this thing going? Calculate again. All right. Take a look at this. We're going to play 1,000 poker tournaments, okay? And you're a winning player. I think you can almost see this. We're going to play 1,000 poker tournaments. That's what this is. You're a winning player. You're crushing it. This is the $0 line. Over 1,000 tournaments, most of the players are going to be up only a little bit. This each line is if we ran this 20 times. 21,000 tournament samples. You know what I want to do? Let's actually make this, instead of 1,000 tournaments, we're going to play 100. Let's play 100 tournaments instead. Now you're going to see some insane results. Take a look at this. If we play 100 tournaments, sure, a few people win big. Actually, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of 20 times you're going to win big over 100 tournaments. The rest of the time, you're going to be up or down some. And notice some players, like, literally just play 100 tournaments and have, like, no results. They just have a few min caches. 17 out of 20 times you're doing, like, break even or better maybe, but three or four or five out of 20, you are losing over 100 tournaments. That's normal. Get used to it. If you don't like that, then poker's probably not for you. Tournaments are probably not for you if you don't like this. If this turns you off, then don't play tournaments. If decent fundamentals and want to play full time, go through the tournament and cash game masterclass, whichever one you want to play. Find a game you can beat and play it a ton. How much do you want for 40 hours of instruction? Fortunately for you, I already have it all lined out. I literally did it all already. I've laid out the complete path to get good at poker from start to finish. Also, take a look at this. Here we have this one player who actually won a ton of money, $45,000, playing $100 buy-in tournaments, over 100 tournaments. They had nothing happen for like 62 tournaments. They just completely got pooped on for 62 tournaments. Can you play 62 tournaments and completely get pooped on and be okay with that? Is Ace King in bad shape against 3 or 4 callers? I don't know. Let's see. Ace King offsuit. What do you want your opponents calling with? They're probably not going to call with the best hands. They're going to 3-bet the best hands. Let's give them, I don't know, let's just give all the callers this. Are we in bad shape with Ace King against 3 or 4 callers? Let's just give them this range, okay? I don't know what they actually have. Oh, how do I select all this? There we go. We're going to go against 3 callers, okay? How do you think Ace King offsuit's doing against 4 callers with this range? You think we're behind? Remember, we're putting in 25% of the money. And we're going to dominate them post-flop when we make top pair. We put in 25%, we get back 32. Is that bad? King, queen offsuit. Playing on the final table bubble, which probably doesn't really matter that much unless it's in the money. Once you raise the flop, I'm not folding top pair second kicker. How do I feel about Martin Cabral's style of play? I think it's horrible. Horrible for the game. Why do you try to get 3 streets of value with top pair, top kicker? Ace King was great. What do you mean? Top pair, top kicker is excellent. Can you beat 10-20 with a 5% rake, 5 big blind max? So $100 rake? Probably if everyone's bad. You're playing WSOP London. No. Who do you want to be in the Poker Hall of Fame? I do not know the people who are alive. Kind of cool Jeremy Osmus is in. Jeremy Osmus is a player who is more new school player. I didn't even know the guy was 40 years old. We played a lot of poker together. I think it's very cool that he is nominated. How do I recommend playing short stacked? Study short stack strategy, please. What's the best poker book? Depends on what you're trying to call. Or Depends on what you're trying to learn, right? Depends on what you're trying to learn. What's the best time for playing cash games? Nights and weekends. What's the best advice for playing tournaments like the Colossus? Play them like any other big field tournaments. Realize that some of those players in the Colossus do not want to go broke, kind of like the World Series main events. I had a hand in the first, or early in like one of the first $400 buy-in tournaments they had at the World Series, where essentially I had like bottom pair and a flush draw or something. And I thought my opponent had something good like Ace King. I forget the exact spot. I was like pretty sure I had Ace King on something like Ace Jack 3. And I had 5-3 suited with a flush draw. And on the flop, it went like bet, raise, and I just ripped it all in for a load. It was like, whatever, I'll re-enter, and I thought he was going to fold Ace King anyway. And he tapped for forever, then folded Ace Jack, top 2 pair, face up. I couldn't believe it. He's like, I know you have a set. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Flashed him to 3 when I was folding, make him feel good about it. What's the sufficient bankroll to play $10 buy and sit and goes? It depends on your win rate, everyone. It depends on your win rate. Any question like this is a terrible question. This question tells me you do not understand how variance works. Because as your edge gets smaller, you need a much bigger bankroll. Want me to show you? This was when you had a 30% ROI. What if you have a 2% ROI? What if you have a 2% ROI? Well, now, you're going to be down way more often. You're going to be down way more often. Notice before, it was like 50-50 up and down. Now it's like probably 70% down, give or take, or 60% down. As your edge gets smaller, you need a much bigger bankroll. You should defend the big blind more with a short stack. How about when it comes to multi-way? Not necessarily, especially the offsuit stuff. The offsuit junk goes way down in value. The weak suited hands go way down in value. So no. Can you make it without fully grasping math? What does fully grasping math mean? I mean, I don't understand differential equations at all. I've never really tried. I have never used that for poker. Does that mean I'm bad at math? I don't know. If you can't do division, though, you probably do need to know division and multiplication. How do you recommend doing solver work for multi-way pots? I mean, get a multi-way solver like Monker Solver, or I think there's one simple, I don't know. Monker Solver is what I use, and what I would recommend if you really want to study to use. That said, there are some, like I think there's one like simple multi-way or something that a lot of people think is decent enough. What's the best tournament to stake me in? So I'm selling some action to events on Poker Stake that charges no rake for me and no rake for the players. I love no rake for anyone. Fortunately, they have some money funding them, which is great. Good for the arts, so might as well take advantage of it. And I charge no markup because I'm giving everybody a sweat. I think the maximum action you can buy on any of the tournaments remaining is like $30 or something. So sorry, you can't get all that much money in. The win tournament's probably pretty good in terms of what's remaining. I bet the win 20 million thing is going to be amazing. Using a shove or fold paper chart when fewer than 10 big blinds cheating when you play online. I don't know. It depends on the terms and conditions of your site. It's important to understand the terms and conditions of your site so you do not break them. Will I post any more shares in the main event? Absolutely not. I posted 100 $10 shares of myself in the main event. No markup, just giving it away. Well, you know, you got to pay $10. If you want to see some Mike Sexton videos, check out YouTube. I have a YouTube video where I interviewed Mike Sexton for like an hour. It was a ton of fun. We talked about all the blunders we made with our money. Any recommendations for 510? I mean, I don't know. There's really only a few options, right? We have Wynn and Palazzo / Venetian and Bellagio and Aria, and that's kind of it, right? Maybe Resorts World every once in a while. Do we raise bigger? Why do we raise bigger in tournament and cash games compared to tournaments? You typically raise bigger when you're deeper stacked in general, and also you want to minimize people calling because of the rake. How many hours should you study versus play? This is kind of like, I mean, people don't like this answer, but imagine you're a doctor or you want to become a doctor. How many hours should you study compared to operate? How many hours should you study compared to operate if you want to become a doctor? Well, the question is, how good of a doctor are you right now? If you have never done an operation and you're not a doctor at all, and you've never cut anybody open, you probably should be studying a lot. If you've cut people open a million times, you should still study a little bit, but you probably don't need to study much at all. Right? You would love to see a challenge between various poker sites, various poker training sites. I'm not a big fan of challenges. Why? Because they're completely variance riddled. I'm not a big fan of things that the result do not show an outcome whenever you're trying to show that something is definitively better or worse than something else. I'll give you a good example of a reverse free roll here. The Berkey thing against Nick Airball. If Nick Airball managed to win a heads-up match, which, you know, certainly is possible. Who knows if he's any good at poker or not? Who knows if he can actually sit down and study or not? If he beat Berkey at that, that would have been so detrimentally bad for Berkey's training site. And if Berkey wins, yeah, he gets money. Yeah, he won, but like he's expected to win, right? It's almost like whenever you have a very good boxer or MMA fighter, and they're fighting against someone who is barely an MMA fighter. Yeah, they're probably going to win. Yeah, it looks like free money. But if they hit him right on the chin and knock him out, it looks really, really, really bad for the person who's supposed to be good. Like, detrimentally bad. Oh my god. And like, I don't know the odds. Even if Nick Airball's terrible and Berkey's pretty good, Nick Airball's going to win like 5% of the time, 10% of the time. Would I risk my trading site's reputation on a 5% of the time, 5 or 10% of the time, random knockout to my chin? The answer is no. That'd be stupid. I mean, I think it'd be stupid, but you know, some people are happy to do it. Then you have to ask, like, what's the odds I would do it? Imagine I could either win $1 million 98% of the time, or have my training site die. Not that that's what would happen, by the way. If you get knocked out by a player who's thought to not be very good, and you can just cite it up to being bad at heads up. You never studied it, right? I mean, maybe you could say I was actually bad, but if I'm actually saying I'm bad, why am I saying I'm good? You know what I mean? It's a big mess. So what are the odds I would just like let somebody knock me out? And I'm like, I'm not trying to get knocked out. A big reason I'm here in poker still today is because I never put myself open to being knocked out. I've had bad downswings, but like, don't open yourself to losing. When you have a 100 buy-in downswing, it sure is good to have 300 buy-ins in your bankroll, right? It'd be kind of negligent not to. A nice way to survive in business, maybe not thrive 100% maximally, but a nice way to thrive in business is to not position yourself to get knocked out. You got $2,000, I guess, from winning something for third place. Should you stay at the micros? Maybe move up a tiny bit. I mean, look, if you have good results in the micro stakes, not counting that big win, then it certainly could make sense to move up a little bit. But don't move up like a ton, just move up a little bit. Should you read books or watch videos for poker? Depends on what you like to do. Am I pushing all in under the gun +1 with queen 10 of hearts? Day 2, 56 left. Ugh. It's kind of a gross spot. I don't know. What did the chart say? What did the chart say? What does the chart say? 12 big blinds. I bet, it's probably going to say shove, right? I don't know what it says. Yeah, so it does clearly say shove, right? Now you are with some payout implications, so you're going to want to be a little bit tighter than this. I got to presume this probably doesn't want to min raise even then though, because like 56 left is not really that deep, right? It's a spot where there are negligible payout implications, so yeah, I'd probably just be all in with it. Are you ready to become a Magic the Gathering pro? I don't think so. Mike Mattisau book is 47 pounds. Wow. Retro. Do I have a Mike Mattisau book back here? I hope I do. Oh, it was a fun book. He signed it to me. I don't think it's here, though. Where is it? I don't think it's back here. He signed. I had bought one of the first copies of it, and he signed it. F you, Jonathan Little, you ruined my life. This was shortly after or a little while after I knocked him out four-handed at Foxwoods. When he was at I guess I needed the money, and I knocked him out in 4th place on a coin flip. His brain fuel no longer in the picture. It says at the bottom, you want 15% off brain fuel, get it. Literally drinking brain fuel right now. It gets you going. All right. I'm going to be done soon. I got to get going. Sorry if I didn't answer your question. You were too slow typing it in. If you're not subscribed to this channel, click the subscription button. You might as well. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Do I play online tournaments nowadays? Not so much. I'll probably play a few of the World Series one. What does money mean to you? I had to talk about this with my wife the other day because we're considering figuring out a way to buy a substantially bigger apartment. And money to me is a tool at the end of the day. It is a tool that allows you to produce more money. I mean, I have a lot of money invested in various startup companies. And whenever you put your money in a startup company, it's kind of like a poker tournament. You put your money in and it usually dies. But sometimes it comes back with a gigantic return. And I'm cool with that. A lot of people don't like the idea of I'm going to put my money in something and it's just going to go to zero most of the time. And that's tough. That's tough, right? And I guess I don't really care. So I don't care if I lose money. I mean, you're going to lose money. You're supposed to lose money. If you're not losing money, it's not ideal. I mean, go back over here to this graph, right? Here you are, this player. They had, look, at their peak, they had $28,000 and now they're down to 25. They lost. They're down. But like, in the long run, you just win if you keep investing your money in profitable spots. I learned this a long time ago playing sit and goes, where I had about a 2% return on investment. Find a game you can beat. I got my 2%. Played a lot. Playing 5,000 of them a month at my peak. And keep a proper bankroll. And you'll win. Let me actually show you. Let's see. Let's say we're going to play a 2% game. We're going to have 10 players. We're going to pay 3. We're going to have whatever rate. It doesn't really matter. Return on investment. We're going to play, how many did I play a year? 60,000 of these. This is roughly what my results would look like. Okay? Let's click calculate. I actually had a bigger ROI than this, but we'll show you roughly what results will look like if this thing will go. Did it go? It did not go. Calculate again. 60,000 is a lot. Actually, no, I don't want 60,000 here. Let's just do 20. I think this will work better. Maybe not. Who knows? Give it a minute. 60,000 is a lot. If you find a game you can beat and play it a lot and keep a proper bankroll, you will win. Did I break the website? I think I broke the website. Let's try again. Let's try again. Did I completely break the website? Tournament variance calculator. Maybe the site's down. Oh, okay, here we go. 10 players. Places played 3. Buy-in, $100. Let's say $12. Let's say 2% return on investment. We're going to play 60,000. Let's just click calculate and see what it does. Oh, here we go. No, this is only 1,000. I want 60,000. Okay. Entering the wrong thing in the form. Oh, I need a bigger bankroll. Okay, I think I've done it right. It's probably still broken. Whatever. Maybe it'll come, maybe it won't. I'm going to try to refresh one more time. And if this does not work, we're going to be done for the day. I love whenever I try to show you all something on a website that's not mine and it doesn't work. It makes me feel a little bit better about when my site doesn't work. Because sometimes stuff just doesn't work, and, it's A-okay. I was going to show you that there is no variance and that the line goes straight up. I guess their website's just broken. Or the internet's broken on my end, who knows? Are we even streaming today? Is anybody live here today? If we're live, click the like and subscribe button. Let me know we all exist. Whatever, their website's down. Such is life. All right. That's going to be it for today. I hope you had a great day. Hope you enjoy yourselves. Hope you make the most of your opportunity. Oh my gosh, here it's going to load up and give me a sweat. Okay. Last try. I'll answer one more question while I'm waiting on this. 2% return on investment. Last try. Let's see. You've been doing good at 18-person sit and goes. Now have 10,000 pound bankroll, no big wins. What's next? Higher stakes, etc. Yeah, I mean, I would just tell you to play higher stakes of the same game that you're good at. If you find a game you can beat, play it a lot, play bigger, etc., etc. This is only giving me 1,000. I don't know why it's only giving me 1,000. Such is life. We'll try again later in the future. Anyway, I was going to show you that even with no win rate or minimal win rate, your results will go straight up if you find a game you can beat, play it a lot, and keep a proper bankroll. In my mind, all you really have to do to win at poker is to have maximum amounts of discipline. I've had a bunch of students come to me. I've taught them, or, help them realize that if you just have a massive amount of discipline and you do the things that are required to win, that you will win. Don't be a baby and cry about variance. If you don't like the variance of the game that you signed up for, play a different game, right? If you're cool with the variance, you will hopefully be rewarded. The nice thing about poker is that most of the games that have the most variance have the highest potential win rate. So, are you cool with having a lot of swings in exchange for having a high win rate? Some people are, some people aren't. I personally never liked losing money whenever I was a young kid. Money was a very, very scarce resource around the house. And that probably led me into taking the approach to poker that resulted in me basically being impossible. It was impossible for me to lose. I found a strategy that resulted in it being such that I could not lose because I played a massive amount of volume. And a lot of people don't like the idea they have to sit down and grind it out. Somebody said at the start of the show, I'm tired of the grind. Should I quit? The answer is yeah, probably. And I was cool with it. And because I was cool with it, I turned almost no money into a lot of money. And I've continued doing that. I've just found a game I can beat. I put a lot of money in and get back more money. And that's what we're going for. How do you improve from square one? Go to pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. Go through that course. It's completely free. It'll take you about 3 hours. And from there, go through the tournament masterclass and you will be good to go. I got to go now. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of you being here. Click the like and subscribe button before you leave. Have a great day. I'll talk to all of you next time. Bye-bye.